My name is Laura and welcome to my channel, Aquamarine 18. It feels like it's been a while, but it's a really busy time of year for me, so I just pop on when I can, which it's been hard. It's been hard to find time, and it's also been hard to find time in my house that's quiet and uninterrupted, and I don't even know if this time is one of those times, so hopefully I won't have to do any editing, but we'll see. I'm coming on today with a unboxing and first impressions video of the beautiful Luminous Void Tarot created by Laura Zusspen. You can see it's shiny because it's still in the plastic. I just got this deck on the weekend, and it's not a brand new deck. The box copyright is 2018, so it's been out for a little while. And I've seen some videos on this deck, and I always liked it. There's a lot about the aesthetics that appeal to me. I like the colors. I like the unique card shape, which we'll get into in a second. But it just never was one that I ended up purchasing. The creator is based, I believe, in the United States. So when I had looked on the website, and I'll link her website below, the deck is very much still available. It is beautiful, so you should check it out. When I looked at the website and kind of put it through the cart, the international shipping is a bit steep for me. And with the exchange rate from American to Canadian not being the greatest right now, combined with the international shipping, combined as well with the potential always for the customs charges if something gets caught at the border and they want you to pay extra tax on it, that had kind of held me back because it had the potential to kind of creep up into the terrain of like $100, and that's a lot. That's a lot for a deck, right? And it's hard, and I know that the shipping costs are not a thing that creators can really do anything about. Shipping is expensive. Completely understand. But you know, that always like that risk of customs and that, it holds me back sometimes from buying decks. But this weekend, I got to go to Toronto, and we went there actually for my partner's birthday. We went to the ROM, which is the Royal Ontario Museum, for folks who don't know. It's a big museum in Toronto. And they had on a special exhibit, which they still have, of a collection of historical and like older sci-fi and horror film posters and props and costumes and things like this. So we went down to check that out, and we perused some of the rest of the museum. We've both been to the museum a ton of times, so we didn't do so much of the regular collection, but we looked at the special exhibits that we hadn't seen, and we had a lot of fun and went out for vegan pizza and just kind of wandered around the town, which was great. We had a lot of fun. And one of the places that I really wanted to go while I was there, and I was happy that I did get to go to, was the Hermit's Lamp. And I'll link the website of the Hermit's Lamp below. And the Hermit's Lamp is a shop that sells lots of tarot decks, among other things. They also have some kind of aromatherapy things like candles and bath, what do you want to call it? Not like bubble bath, but things you put in the bath to make the bath smell nice. They have some jewelry. They have some oracle decks too. Various crystals, definitely lots of crystals. And I really, really liked the Hermit's Lamp, and I go there whenever I have a chance in Toronto. And I had been to the Hermit's Lamp a couple of times before, but I hadn't actually been. They have a new location for the shop. The older shop had a fire, which is awful. But there's a new location open now. So I got to go and visit it, and I was very happy to get to do that. And I got a few assorted goodies, including this pendant, which you probably can't see very well, but it's a moon with stars there. And I got some room spray, and I got a little diffuser for cone incense. And of course, I was there to look at the tarot decks primarily. That's always what I'm there to look primarily at. I got my tinned version of the Aquarian Tarot there, I believe, on a previous visit as well, and some other goodies. But they had the Luminous Void Tarot, and they had a whole shelf of them there. And one thing that I noticed, of course, immediately is that buying this deck at the Hermit's Lamp was a much lower price for me than buying it online, even if I didn't get hit with customs. Like buying it online with the shipping would have cost, I calculated out with the nice exchange rate calculator this morning, it would have cost me like $20 more Canadian. So it was a great price for me. And on top of that, they had a open copy of the deck, which I love. Like, I know probably like most of us, including me, do most of our tarot deck shopping online, and that's like whether it's mass market or indie, it doesn't really make a difference. Like, most of the decks that I buy I've purchased online, but really, like, there is not any substitute for going into a physical store with a beautiful curated collection on a shelf and being able to look, and the proprietor of Hermit's Lamp, Andrew, has great, you know, assortment of decks there, and having the open deck and getting to feel the cards and look at them and just, and I didn't, you know, look through every card or anything like that. My partner would have left the store without me if I did that. One of us has a lot more interest in these things than the other, we'll say that. But I looked through some of them and held them and did, you know, very quick shuffle, and that really made buying it more special, for one thing, and also just kind of solidified that it was in fact a deck that I had wanted to add to my collection. You know, we always can try to convey as best we can on our channels, you know, what cardstock is like and what a deck feels like, and the you know, the matte or glossy and so on and so on, but really like the tactile holding a beautiful thing, there is no substitute. So that's the Luminous Void Tarot by Laura Zespen, and that is the story of how I got it. And I didn't want to be like struggling on camera, so I ripped this little corner of plastic to try to hopefully make it easier to open, because it's still in the wrap. And I'm excited about this deck. I knew that it was there in the shop, so I had kind of planned to get it if I liked you know, the price and the feel of it, and it was as beautiful in person as I thought it might be. So I was very happy with that. The box is very it's almost like a rose petal-y box, actually. Matte, smooth, and the back just says the Luminous Void Tarot, complete 78 card tarot deck and guidebook created by Laura Zespen. It has her website, copyright 2018, and then it has the Empress, the Hierophant, and the Hermit featured on the back, which shows, you know, if you were looking at it in the store, I guess, and there wasn't an open copy, this might indicate to you that the card shape is quite unique. So it's a watercolor deck. The camera, there's no way that this camera is going to do justice to these colors because they're amazing. I really, really love this. It has my favorite feature on a box, the thumb hole. Or finger hole. I guess only one of them is going to be a thumb hole, right? Because you can't. Anyway, there it goes. The box is just a plain brown on the inside. Nice. It's sturdy. It's a good feel. I like to you know, I like to make bags for my decks, and I will make a bag for this deck too. But I like to make the bags big enough that the box can be inside the bag, so they're double protected. And this kind of box is the exact kind of box that I like for that. So it comes with a guidebook, and it's a full color guidebook. The pages are not numbered. It's not very big. I mean, it is a little white book. So it has a little cover sheet here, and it says the Luminous Void Tarot is a meditative and playful exploration of archetype, art, and psychology through the 78 major and minor arcana of the tarot. So there's a little section on what is the tarot structure, the suits, which have elemental associations, the traditional ones, and they each come with a description, I guess, of what that suit means, and also a action. So it shares an action to connect with the element of the suit. For wands, it includes build a small fire and contemplate its breath, light, and changing colors. For the cups, commune by a large body of water, or better, float luxuriously in a pool of water. Swords is meditate and to consciously quiet your mind. And for pentacles, which in this deck is called discs, it says plant a garden, intend it, contemplate the sources of life. And if you don't have a garden space, you could just have a potted plant in your house. It has a description of the court cards. So it's just a short description like that. So the queens, the kings, the knights, and the pages are the names. There's a little bit, I'm interested to maybe read the book if the creator says anything about this. There is an interesting kind of, tension's the wrong word, combination of kind of characteristics that incline the deck that seems like it might be not Rider-Waite-Smith, and then there's some that seems to incline it to be more towards Rider-Waite-Smith. So the fact that the suit of pentacles is discs, for example, or I know the magician is magus, are not Rider-Waite-Smith traditional, but the suits otherwise are, the elemental associations are, the court card names are, so with pages, for example. And these are fairly straightforward, kind of not unusual court card descriptions, I will say. They are gendered in ways which doesn't mesh with how I read, but I don't have to read them the way the book says, so that's totally fine. Like it describes the queens as relating to a fully embodied female characteristic or force, a person exhibiting motherhood, archetypal feminine, and so on. Similarly for the kings, whereas the knights, it says they can represent people of any gender with certain characteristics, and pages represent children. I don't read the court cards as gendered, regardless of what the book or the court titles on the card says. So I leave that part aside. It has brief keywords for the major arcana, so here just very, very briefly. And so, oh, actually, maybe it's not the magus. Here it does say the magician for the major. I thought it was the magus. Interesting. We will see when we get there. There are none in this list that have a different name from the conventional Rider-Waite-Smith, with the exception of the Hanged Woman. But other than that, they have the same. And then there are very short, not even keywords, like little short phrases for each of the minors, and the suit is represented there in full color. Beautiful. And then there's a section on how to read using the tarot. There's one spread, deck, ritual, and care, and a very short section of reading recommendations. And this says that is a list of books that have helped the creator on my journey to become a better tarot reader and healer. Okay, little guidebook. I've only been here for 13 minutes and now I can get to the cards. Opening this box is really exciting because what you get under the guidebook is this. So we know that the cards are in kind of oval shape. The deck is thick. Thick, thick, thick. I should have brought something to compare it to. But that is a very thick deck. You can see on the edges there's this it's very matte gold edging. And on the back, non-reversible, there's this beautiful, fully metallic. My camera really doesn't like metallic, but you can see it's a full metallic with a watercolor up here, and then the solid, really beautiful, beautiful red, which looks really great with the matte gold on the edges. And these are cards that the fronts have a lot of white space to really set off the colors of the watercolor, which are they're kind of muted actually. They're not really, really bright. I think the brightest thing in this deck is this, is the red on the back by far. So just go through the cards here, and we will see what we find. So the Fool carrying their pack. And we can see some people I've heard describe the art as like slightly creepy. And I guess I can kind of see that, but I also really like it. So it's, maybe it's not the deck for everyone, but I really, really love this. I think it's really expressive and really inviting of interpretation. It's like familiar enough that I feel like this is a deck that is pretty readable straight out of the box. It's not reinventing the wheel, but it is a creative representation of the cards that we know and love. Okay, so the Magician actually on the card is called the Magus. I remembered right. And you can see that they have all of their tools there. So it's called the Magus on the card, but the Magician in the guidebook. I'm not sure what quite is going on there, but for someone who is maybe a beginner, it is numbered both here and I believe in the guidebook as well. I'm going to check that. I'm going to check that before I tell you that. Okay, no, they're not. They're not. The Mages are not numbered in here, but they are in an order. So the Magician is after the Fool, right? So hopefully, even though the title might be different, you know, you can find everything in a fairly straightforward way. Now I'm really curious if there are going to be changed major titles, because I tried to kind of not look too much, and now we know that the Magus is not the Magician, so. The High Priestess. This is interesting. It's almost a bit like a torso. Interesting. So this one is not a conventional representation at all. I will have to do some thinking about that one. The Empress I love. This feels like, you know, youthful dress up in a way, which is maybe not an association that I have with the Empress, but is something lovely nonetheless. You get the crown with the stars and a scepter. Very nice. The Emperor almost has a kind of similar feel, but the colors, the Empress is a lot brighter than the Emperor. But they both have their scepters and their crowns. They go together in a nice way, I think. The Hierophant. You have some traditional symbolism that is familiar. The hand up. Come on, camera, you can do it. And I feel like this one, the eyes are quite clear, but the mouth is maybe covered or obscured. The Hierophant's not giving anything away. Lots of wisdom, but not giving it away readily, I think. The Lovers is interesting. I do like when a Lover's card has this kind of three, like two at the bottom and one at the top kind of structure. So we have two figures kind of reaching out to each other and being held by this giant eye with hands, which is interesting. For the Chariot, it feels motion. It almost, it's gonna sound funny. It almost looks a little bit flying carpet to me. You don't get the two sphinxes in any clear kind of way. But the figure there looks like they're holding a steering wheel, which is kind of fun. And you have water, which is good for the Chariot to include, in my opinion. Very nice. Strength, we have what looks a lot more like a dog than a lion to me. And the figure reaching out to, you know, tame or calm or control or coerce, depending on how you read strength. I don't read it in that kind of coercive way. Reaching out to the animal there. And so we see strength is 8. I will assume then that justice is 11 in accordance with the Rider-Waite-Smith numbering. I had, I think, seen kind of the Magus early on, and I thought, ooh, does that mean it's Thoth? Because if it's Thoth, I'm not going to buy it. You know, and same with the discs, I think might be Thoth as well, but it feels Rider-Waite-Smithy to me. Rider-Waite-Smithy, like an adjective. That's great. Very descriptive. The Hermit is really bright. I like that the Hermit is really bright and colorful. The Wheel, we have a kind of perhaps an allusion to kind of traditional wheel cards with the figures at the top and the bottom rising and falling. The wheel is often not my favorite card in a deck, but this is pretty. I like that. So it's just called the wheel, number 10. Justice is interesting. I feel like I'm going to say interesting a lot in this video. So we get a set of scales there and a kind of sense of trying to balance, trying to hold everything up in a good way, which is good for justice, I think. Number 12 is indeed the Hanged Woman. Death, the skull. I like that there's some color in this and that it's not all just black and gray. Like it fits with the rest. I like that. Temperance. There is a sense of kind of perhaps liquid moving back and forth between two what look like faces to me and the angel in the background. Be interested. I always prefer, one thing I do always prefer that I feel like this guidebook doesn't do. It doesn't. I really like when creators have a kind of really unique vision like this, right? Like a lot of these cards, you can see elements of kind of traditional depictions or, you know, Rider-Waite-Smith imagery and things like this. But there's a lot of innovation that makes the deck really special. And I really like when the guidebook kind of for each of those cards gives something around why you make the choices that you did or what you intend the symbols in the card to be. This one does not do that. It's very much leaves a lot of room for intuitive interpretation. So it's not gonna give anything away in terms of the artist's choices. I have to think about them. The Devil has, and actually, I like this. I don't love the Rider-Waite-Smith Devil. This one has some of the callback to more Marseille style devils with the face on the stomach of the devil, which I like. The Tower, clear enough, with an eye at the top. The Star, there's a lot of stretched kind of imagery in this one. And this one kind of reminds me of back in the Justice card, the similar kind of pose, but I like the big star in the center that, you know, is very prominent, and the night sky up top. The Moon. I really love this Moon card, and the Moon card is the Pisces associated major arcana, of course. And this one is you know, it's simple. It's just the moon front and center with the stream leading up to it. None of the additional symbols that are sometimes there. I think it's really effective. I really, really, really like this. And the Moon is one of the cards that I look to, so I'd seen this card before. The Sun. Don't those look great together? Very evocative, I think. The sun, so bright and colorful. I really like this card too. Judgment is interesting. You do get a sense of the people kind of climbing up or reaching up to this kind of celestial figure in the center there. Calling them home, maybe. And the world card makes me happy. Just all different humans together with the earth in the center. I enjoy that. Now, I'm not sure what order these are going to be in. I have an order that I like to look at the majors in, so I just want to, the minors, apologies, that I like to look at, and so far it is in the order that I like. Yeah. I don't know if there's any kind of order to the minors per se. I like to look at the wands, then the cups, then the swords, then the discs. And I don't really have a reason that that is what I prefer. Maybe it's just the first couple of tarot books I had them organized in that way. I'm not sure. But that's kind of the order that I think of the deck as going in anyway. I'm going to try to talk a little bit less because this is already 25 minutes. I'm sure I want to ooh and ah at every single card. I'm going to restrain myself. Okay. Ace of Wands. I'm trying to get this in a good place here. There we go. Two of Wands. It's almost a little swordsy holding up the two, going either direction, but it makes sense for Two of Wands. Three of Wands. Creating the first sense of stability that comes with the three. Four. Stability. Five, you get the sense of conflictual there. Six of Wands, definite. This one is quite pale. I hope it's picking up the differences between the cards. You get the kind of celebratory ride home that we see in the Rider-Waite-Smith for the Six of Wands. Seven. Eight of Wands. It's a bit different with the wands being almost completely vertical. Nine of Wands. I like that. Trying to guard the vulnerability, right? 10. The Page. I like the Page. You know, it's simple. A face and a wand. Why not? Again, you know, I can see what some people are getting at when they say that they find the faces a little bit strange in this deck. They're watercolor, but they're quite abstract. You can tell that it's definitely a face, but it's not detailed. Knight. I do like when the knights are on horses or somehow very clearly moving, like this one is. The Queen. I do like when there's a cat, of course. And the King has the biggest crown of them all. Very colorful with the rainbow garments and wand. So that's the wands. Oop. It seems like every unboxing or first impressions or review, I end up dropping cards at some point. That's okay. Okay, the Ace of Cups is beautiful. The colors, I know that the camera is not really going to pick up how amazing these colors are, but it's so soft. The Two of Cups. 3, see friends raising a toast under what is maybe a rainbow, a yellow rainbow, or maybe they're out on a patio. Maybe they're out on a patio raising a glass and they're under the awning. Right? That's what I'll go with for that one. Four of Cups sitting and reflecting there, not seeing the cup that's offered. I'm reading actually, and I'll have a review of this I think when I'm done. I'm reading Mindful Tarot right now by Lisa of Mindful Tarot, and it's really great so far. And one of the first cards that she spends some time talking about in the book is the Four of Cups, in a really nice way. So I've been thinking about the Four of Cups lately. The 5, you get the sense of loss, and like you can see, like the colors change a lot from one card to the next, which I think is really nice. I think that the color really is evocative of the messages in person. So you can see a person crying here with the downturned cups, and in this 5 of Cups they're all downturned, which is a little bit different. 6 of Cups, we see the young ones there. Seven of Cups, the cups offering all the possibilities. And they're quite abstract. There's one with a dollar sign, there's one with a bottle, one with a snake. And then the others are a bit less clear, and we see the person below kind of reaching out to those different cups. The 8, I love that. The 8 of Cups is another card that I really like to look for. And this person kind of trying to get out and away from this last cup towards something new there. The 9 of Cups, that's an interesting one. I think of the 9 of Cups as happy bartender, and this one could be that. You know, in the Rider-Waite-Smith, I think of it that way. And the 10 of Cups, we get a rainbow, lots of cups. Some of these cups, actually, I don't know if you can tell this on the, I'm going to try to show it, where my finger is here. Some of the cups have these little smiley faces in them. Not sure if that's going to pick up. Oh, there it is. See, there's a smiley face in that cup. I feel like there's a lot of little things in this deck to find through working with it. So the Cups court, we have the Page reaching out. And the Knight of Cups again is on some sort of steed. It's not very horse looking. And they have the cup on their head in this one, which I quite enjoy. The Queen of Cups, similarly, the cup as the crown. And the cup, some of the cups kind of have these kind of faces almost. I really like her. I think that's lovely. And the King of Cups is almost inside. And again, the cup, you know. So fun. Okay. Ace of Swords, great. You know, clear, straightforward, up and down, piercing through everything. Ace of Swords. The 2, the decision, right? The being of two minds about something, two different directions, both perhaps equally enticing with the color there. The 3 of Swords, we don't get the pierced heart, which I like. I like when there's something different in this card. I don't necessarily, especially when I'm thinking in a more pip deck approach or a more numerological and suit-based approach, I don't think that the pierced heart is reflexive of how I think about the 3 of Swords, really. And so this one has a cloud, and you can get the sense of despair if that's how you read the card, but you also don't have to. It doesn't feel imposed, which I like a lot. I think that that's a clever way to approach that card. 4 of Swords, quite Rider-Waite-Smith reminiscent of a pause there. 5 of Swords, clasping them with a few dropped. 6 of Swords, this one's very light. There's a couple of people in the boat here being ferried away with the swords on the boat as well. 7 swords coming in. There's almost tears. 8 swords very much conveys a feeling of trappedness. There's no gap here, right? Very effective. The 9 of Swords, again, you know, not precisely Rider-Waite-Smith, but definitely kind of evokes that sense of being kept up at night and anxiety and racing thoughts. And the 10 of Swords, a different kind of orientation in terms of the person being kind of vertical, but you very much get that stabbed feeling there. Page of Swords. This one's quite a bit like the Page of Wands, just a face and the sword there. Knight of Swords, so it looks like all of the knights are going to be on a horse. This one's definitely a horse, I think. And I really like the hairdo of this knight. You can tell that they're moving very, very quickly with their hair in the wind. The Queen, beautiful gray tones. Incredible. The colors of this deck are so special. And the King of Swords also gray, almost cloudy, and kind of the sharpness of piercing through that. Really love that so much. The last one is the discs. So here it's a sunflower, which is a bit different. Or it looks like a sunflower to me because of the petally bits around the edge. But it could also be a coin with the pentacle symbol in the middle there. The Two of Discs, you get the lemniscate there around the two discs, a sense of balancing, a sense of multitasking, holding up multiple things and trying not to drop them into this water down here. The Three of Discs, I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. One person at the bottom seems to have a hammer, one has maybe a book, and one has maybe a bag of something. So you can read that kind of working together sense there, different tasks coming together that we see in a lot of decks like Rider-Waite-Smith. Steampunk Tarot has this. The Four of Discs has a quite Rider-Waite-Smith pose, holding those resources close. The Five, you don't have the same, you know, what is that called? Stained glass in that, but you see a person here under the clouds, and the clouds are raining down, and their face is covered. There's definitely kind of anguish there, and you really get the kind of weight, and like this is how the colors in this deck are fucking brilliant. You get this heavy dark cloud, like that. You think of that feeling of like the dark cloud feels like the dark cloud is following you around, like no matter what you do, you have a dark cloud hanging over you, and that comes through here. Six of Discs, there's a kind of balance here. There's a lot of these kind of abstract faces in the deck, which is really interesting. Seven, an interesting kind of configuration, the person here kind of assessing, I guess, the discs that they have. The Eight of Discs, I love this too. You really get the sense of growth, of work paying off, of work at different stages perhaps. I really, really like this, and I like how very earthy the palette is. That's beautiful. I really like that. And the Eight of Discs is a card that I really like too, in general. The Nine of Discs, you have the person with the bird looking quite satisfied with what they have under the rainbow there, suggesting kind of a good thing, but the person, you know, there with, you know, perhaps they're in a garden, who knows. Really beautiful. And the discs are like earthy toned in general. The Ten of Discs, there's a sense of happy, you know, happy life there, surrounded by the different discs. You see some joy and connection there with a animal friend up at the top. The page, this page of discs reminds me more of the Page of Cups, so they're both laying down with the symbol of the suit above. So there's some interconnection between different court cards and the different suits. Some themes carrying through. Knights again on their horses. This knight doesn't seem to be looking at the pentacle quite so intently as the Knight of Pentacles often does, or Knight of Discs. Queen, again, the queens have these beautiful elaborate crowns, and here in the earthy colors. So the Swords Queen was very kind of cloudy and gray and clear, and this one is browns and greens and really beautiful. And the last card, the King of Discs, it's almost like, you know, they could be planting or harvesting. They have a beautiful crown too. Amazing. So that is the Luminous Void Tarot by Laura Zespin, 2018. And I'm so excited to have this deck in my hands after I kind of remember, I feel like last year when this deck came out, and there was, you know, a couple of different walkthroughs and reviews cropping up. And I was like, oh, I really like, oh, that deck is beautiful, you know. I wonder if that deck will ever be one that kind of crosses my path and comes into my life. And I'm really glad that it has. I'm looking forward to working with it, and maybe it's one again that I can share how I've found working with it once I've done so. I can already think of some oracle decks that this is going to look really beautiful alongside, and I'm looking forward to learning how to shuffle this interesting shape. I have pretty broad reach. I think I'm just going to be able to I'm just going to overhand shuffle it on its side, which is maybe a hard reach depending on your hand span, but I can do it. I'll say I can do it and I'll drop it, right? I can do it end to end like this without much issue, but similarly to a kind of longer oriented card like the Deviant Moon or something, if your reach is not comfortable to do it that way, you could shuffle it end to end this way. And lately I haven't been reading reversals except for with pip decks, so the non-reversible back is fine. I can tell where everything is. It's actually a much easier shuffle than I imagined it when I saw the card shape, and it shuffles nicely. It's got that little bit of catch that really, really matte decks can have when you first buy them, but it shuffles really, really beautifully. And maybe I'll just pick a card out of the center of the deck and just read what the guidebook has to say about it, so you can get a feel of you know, what the keywords in that sound like. So a card to leave us with, we will pick the Queen of Swords. Amazing. She is awesome. I love that Queen of Swords. The crown almost is like a tower. You know, they're carrying a weight, right? Potentially a lot on their mind. They've had a lot on their mind. You know, their sword is up and they're ready. So let's just see what we get for the Queen of Swords. So in addition to the little section on the queens, the kings, the knights, the pages, there is a couple of keywords for each court. And so the Queen of Swords is a full embodiment of intellect, insight, and wit in the feminine, and the king is the same but in the masculine. So again, I don't read court cards like this. I do like the language of a full embodiment of intellect, insight, and wit, though. And I really think of the Queen of Swords as that kind of, you know, insight that is rare and can even be like cutting at times, like means business, like gonna say what it is, not messing around, but also like in the best possible way. Definite wit, definite sharpness, carrying a lot of experiential knowledge is what I always think of with the Queen of Swords. And this Queen of Swords I really like. And I really like this deck, and I'm really excited to get to know it. And I'll perhaps share some photos of it online on Instagram if I start. If I do that, I don't, you know, I always mean to post more tarot and things on Instagram, but really, like, when I'm reading for myself, I'm not reading for myself to post something later, and so I usually just end up not doing it. But I could put some pictures, maybe if I combine it with an oracle deck and I find a particular one that looks really great, I'll share that. So thank you for watching. If you stuck with me all the way through this 44-minute chat about the Luminous Void Tarot, let me know what you think of the deck. If you have the deck and like working with it, do feel free to share your experiences in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.